Bitch, we bustin' cage from the cradle to the grave. These the cards I was handed, so a nigga had to play. Survival of the fittest, can't see it no other way. This the way we was raised, I swear I won't never change. Nigga, I won't never change.
I don't even have an intro, but this video, it's gonna be on probably Came From Nothin TV or my main one, Hot by Some OTMB. Today, I got a special guest. This is one of my first interviews, and I knew this dude for like a little bit of time. We grew a little cool, close relationship. So I'm gonna let you introduce yourself. You can tell them your name, what you do, just a little bit about you.
Hey, I'm Tim Bradshaw. Thanks for having me on your show, Kamari. I'm the founder and CEO of Instacorp Ltd. It's a small business in Franklin, Virginia. And I also operate and manage the Bradshaw building. It's a commercial real estate building on Main Street, also in Franklin.
Right. So just to give them like a little background, we could tell them like how we met. It wasn't a weird interaction, but it was just an unexpected encounter, I guess I'll tell it from my half, since it wasn't really like much on your half. You just seen me that day. So I was still in school at the time, and I was looking to get like a logo done. I was looking for someone to create another logo, and I was online in class in that morning and came across his building, Instacorp, and I seen that it was close by my job. At the time, I was working at Hardee's, and I looked at the Google Maps, just the picture, just to see how it looked, and I was like, okay, yeah, it's real close. So that day after school, I planned to go by the building, and when I got out of school and I left and I walked to work, I seen the building, but I didn't go up to it. I said after my shift, that's when I left, and I started walking back home. As I was walking back home, I was on the phone with someone, and I was telling them, I showed them the building. And I was like, well, let me just go up a little bit just to see how it looked. So I see a man and a dog standing at the corner, but I'm just like, I know I'm not trying to do nothing, so I'm not really worried about nothing. So I go to the building, and as I'm walking to the building, I see him walking towards me. But once again, I'm not really worried about it. I'm taking a look at the building, showing the person. I heard some footsteps, so I get a little nervous. He came around, asked, yeah, may I help you? And I ain't gonna lie, I stuttered a little bit. But I told him like I had a business and I was trying to get a logo done, and I seen the website early that day, stuff like that. He gave me a card. When he told me he was a CEO and he owned that building, it shocked me because I seen him before, like at my job, I see him walking past. And I'm just thinking like it's a regular citizen, like I'm not thinking it's a CEO at the time. He gave me the card, I see it's you, and I looked you up early that day. I put all that together.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool too. It was completely random, and we've had a lot of great random encounters since then, and had a lot of deep conversations. And I got to tell you, man, talking to you has really given me a lot of inspiration that was much needed. And we'll get into it, I'm sure. But the past 4 years have been tough for a lot of people. And I've really had to overcome a lot myself. And so I think what you're doing is awesome. And, I'm looking forward to trying to answer your questions as best as I can.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Let's go and get right into it. We got to introduce one person, Ruger. I'm not really nervous around dogs. Like, I love dogs. But when your dog first came up to me, I was a little nervous. I'm not going to lie, but I remember you told me, like, if you're not doing nothing wrong, then you don't really have nothing to worry about. So after
That's
that,
right.
that's what I was just like, okay.
And Ruger was trying to get my attention earlier, trying to say, hey, don't forget to introduce me.
Uh-huh.
And I remember that night too. Like, a lot of people, I feel like they're afraid of dogs because they might have had bad experience with dogs. But one thing that I try to remind people, it's just like with people, like everyone's different. Every dog's different. If you raise them with love, they're going to be loving, and, they're going to be more sociable and more friendly if you treat them right. I treat him like he's my child. So
yeah.
That's why he's here with us right now.
How long you had Ruger?
He's 5 years old now. I got him when he was 5 to 7 weeks old. He was a rescue. And he was found when he was about 2 weeks old. He was abandoned. He was on the side of the road.
Okay.
And
So you've
I
been
never.
best friends ever since.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, he's been with me through it all, man. I don't know what I would have done without him. He's a good boy. And I was never a lab person before I got Ruger, but
You had any dogs before that?
I did. I had 2 beagles growing up.
Okay.
How about you?
I got one dog right now. I have a Yorkie, but
Oh, yeah.
he be on the go though. So like he in North Carolina right now, but
What's his name?
his name is RJ.
RJ? Oh, nice. We'll have to get him together with Rigger.
Yeah, we got to.
I think it's good for dogs to play with other dogs.
Yeah, I think it is too. But I liked it.
He's the morale officer.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, ever since the pandemic, it was a pretty big hit to us. So we had to kind of downsize and scale down to continue providing services to clients. So here in Franklin, it's just me and Ruger running the operations. We're keeping about 50 websites online, a lot of public sector websites, nonprofits, healthcare. So a lot of important organizations that we make sure that they're not hacked. We keep them up and running 24/7. And a lot of it is automated now, which is a really great thing. It keeps the cost down. So that keeps the cost down for the clients, and being public sector clients, that saves everybody money too. I'm not like these guys out there that, they're just raking in as much as they can off of these government contracts, because that comes back to all of us. It's the tax dollars that pay for that.
Yeah. I've been seeing stuff like I get on social media and I see sometimes I see these posts. And I just want to ask you, because you're a fellow CEO too. So they say some like billionaires and CEOs, they have like a schedule, or they end up changing their whole like habits around. Like they might be exercising and eating certain things. Like, do you think doing those type of stuff like influence like how you feel and how you run a business? Like, do you think that take a whole toll on your mental?
Oh, as far as your eating habits and like your health and
Yeah,
fitness?
like yeah,
Oh, absolutely. So, during the pandemic, I knew of a lot of small business owners, especially that they had, already been drinking a lot before the pandemic, and then during the pandemic they got even, worse off. That's definitely nowhere to be. I mean, don't get me wrong, I got wild when I was in college, and even in my 20s, but thank God that I had sobered up, and before the pandemic I didn't have a drinking problem, so didn't have to worry about that. But as far as health and fitness and exercise, I think that having a sound mind and body, it goes one in one with each other. Like, you have to have a fit body in order for your mind to be right and to be able to think clearly and make executive decisions, make strategic decisions, and it affects one another. If you're physically unfit, if you're not healthy, or if you're sick, you're not going to think straight.
yeah,
So definitely eating healthy. I try to drink a lot of water. That's the most important. They say 64 ounces a day.
yeah.
So
All
I think
right.
that's the biggest thing, is for me, is meditating. I
Yeah.
meditate every
So
day.
what's your way of meditating?
So there's different ways. So it's more of coming to a meditative state where you can maintain peace of mind, especially if you're in situations like I've been in situations where we've had real threats from, could be foreign governments that consider themselves adversaries of the United States, and they're threatening our web servers, and we have to make very quick decisions. Well, you have to keep a cool head in that kind of situation. When you're managing a team, when you're managing a crisis, when you're managing projects, you have to keep a cool head. So that's the benefit of being meditative. I've been following this guy, Sadhguru. That's Sadhguru.
I've heard of that before.
Yeah. Now some of the stuff he says, I don't necessarily agree with everything, but he's got a lot of guided meditations out there, and there's one that's really good for the mind and body called the Isha Kriya that I practice daily. It's a 15-minute meditation, and I found that that's a huge stress reliever.
I'm not gonna lie, I want to get into some of these questions. I want to get like a better like insight on you a little bit. So you told me you like as a child, like you moved around a little bit. But where are you originally from, and where was you born?
So, well, the first question, I usually answer that, well, I'm from all over.
Yeah.
Where I was born, that's an easier one to start from. I was born at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. Interestingly enough, I was born in the hospital that my dad, who was the civil engineer on the base, it's an Air Force base, was building. So, and that was back in 1985. Okay. And I lived in Northern Virginia, and then Hampton, here in Hampton Roads, and then moved to Germany, and then moved back to Hampton Roads, lived in York County, and then lived in Alaska for a couple years, and then Northern Virginia again, and then York County again, and then Richmond, and then I've been here in Franklin for the past 15 years.
Okay. So would you say this is the only place where you've been for a long time?
Absolutely, yes. So before I lived here in Franklin, I had never lived in one place for more than 3 years.
Yeah. So you prefer like sitting in one place rather than moving around from how you experienced it? Or do you move around?
Well, that's an interesting question. I like having a place that I can call home. There's a lot of great things about this area, a lot of good people in this area, and the cost of living is actually really low. But I get cabin fever a lot. I want to get out there. I like to get around, go around places. I used to travel a lot more with what I did before Intercorp. I got to go all over the country, and growing up, I got to travel all over the world. So I miss that, and I'm hoping to be able to do a lot more traveling soon.
In those places that you travel and stay for a while, have you developed any relationships like to now that have lasted, or was it just be there for a little while, you don't really meet nobody, and you leave?
So what's cool is like being a military brat. I lived either on military bases or in military communities outside of military bases, and so either all the kids in the school, their parents were in the military, or like half the kids in the school, were military kids. And so there'd be some times where I'd have the same friends like from one base and then move somewhere, and then they'd move there, or they moved there before I did, So I'd have some of the same friends that I interacted with. And some of these people I still stay in touch with today. There's some people that I'm friends with that I've known since I was 2 years old, believe it or not, and still stay in touch with. And actually, a lot of that's part of the internet, and that's one of the really cool things about social media is that you can stay connected with people from all over the world.
Okay.